In our lesson today, we're going to have a review of the measures of central tendency, which are the mean, median, and mode. And those words should be familiar to you as you looked at those three things in earlier grades. And we're going to start off by reviewing the definitions of each of these, starting with the mean. Okay, when they're asking you to calculate the mean, they're asking you to find the average. Okay, the mean is the average. In order to find an average, the first thing that you have to do is add all of the values. Okay, so you're going to be given a list of numbers. First thing that you need to do is add all of the values, and then you're going to divide the sum by the number of values. Okay, that's how you find an average. Add up all of the values and then you divide the sum by the number of values. Okay, for median, median means the data that's in the middle. The median is the middle. Okay, in order to find the middle, you need to rearrange the data from least to greatest. Okay, so whenever you're looking for the middle, the median, rearrange the data in order from least to greatest. All right, the mode is the data value, or sometimes there's more than one. Okay, so we'll say the data value or values that appear most often. The ones that show up the most, the ones that appear most often. Okay, those three, the mean, the median, and the mode, are your measures of central tendency. Now, range often gets looped in with these, but it is not a measure of central tendency. Okay, range we are going to talk about, but just remember that range is actually not one of the measures of central tendency. Okay, the range is the difference, meaning that we're going to have to do a subtraction, between the highest and lowest values. The difference between the highest and lowest values. Okay, so if you're calculating the range, rather, you're going to have to do high minus low. Okay, so we're going to practice finding the mean, median, mode, and range with this set of data right here. The first thing that I need you to do, rearrange the data on this line in order from least to greatest. So on the line, I've rearranged my numbers in order from least to greatest. And I always like to make sure that I've got every piece of data. So I'm going to count up how many there were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I'm just going to make sure that my new list has the same amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Good. So we're ready to now calculate the measures of central tendency and the range. So we're going to actually start with the mode, and if we remember from up above, the mode is the data value or values that appear most often. So all I'm doing is looking in my list and I'm trying to figure out which number or which numbers show up more than all of the others. And looking at my list right here, I see that there's 3 3s, which is more than any of the other numbers in the list. So my mode is going to be 3. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is calculate the median. The median, remember, is the middle of the data. Okay, so we've already got our data in order from least to greatest. Let's go ahead and find the middle. What I like to do, I like to put a finger on the first and the last, okay, and then I cover them up until I get to what the middle value is going to be. And I can see right there that my middle value is going to be that second 4 in the list. Okay, so this one right here, 4, is the median. Okay, let's calculate the range now. The range, we said before, was the difference between the highest and lowest values. Well, I can see here that my highest value is 8. My lowest value is 2, so to get the range, I'm going to do 8 minus 2, which I know is 6. Okay, and the last one I'm going to do is the mean. This is the one that involves the most work. Again, the mean is the average, so the first thing that we have to do is add up all of the numbers in the list. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add up all of these numbers here. And when I do that, that's going to give me a sum of 51. Okay, so I'm going to start with a sum of 51. And then I said divide by the number of values. And we counted them before. We know that there are 11 values in the list. So I'm going to do 51 divided by 11. And when I punch that into my calculator, that's going to give me an answer of 4 63/100 repeated. Okay, and I'm not going to round unless they tell me to round. Okay, so I'm going to keep this number here of 4 63/100 repeated. One thing to keep in mind when you're calculating the mean is that most of the time the mean will not divide evenly, like in our example that we did up above here. All right, we have 51 divided by 11. 11 doesn't go into 51 evenly. Okay, you always need to write out the full calculated display and then round to the given place value if necessary. Okay, so write out the full calculated display, and then if they tell you to round to the nearest tenth or the nearest hundredth, that's when you're going to go ahead and do that. If they don't tell you to round, then don't round. Okay, for the mode, in order to have a mode, a number or numbers must occur more often than all of the other numbers. You can have more than one mode. Okay, take for example this list of numbers. First thing we're going to do is rearrange this list. I have a couple of 1s, okay, and then I've got a 2, I've got a couple of 3s, okay, I've got a 4, and I've got a 5. Okay, so now I'm looking through my list and I see that there's 2 1s and there's 2 3s. Okay, but 2, 4, and 5 only show up once. Since 1 and 3 show up more often than the rest and they show up the same amount of time, I'm going to have both of them as my mode. 1 and 3 are going to be the modes. Now it's also possible to have no mode. For example, 3, 4, 8, 7, 1. These numbers all show up just once. They're singles. There is no mode because no number shows up more often than the others. Or if I take this list of numbers here, okay, let's rearrange it first. I see I've got a couple of 1s. I see I've got a couple of 3s. I see a couple of 4s. I see a couple of 7s. And I see a couple of 8s. Each number shows up twice in the list. They're all doubles. No number occurs more than the others, so there is no mode in this example. With the median, remember that you're looking for the middle of the data. If you have an odd number of pieces of data, then there's only going to be one number that's in the middle. For example, I look at this list right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. 5 is an odd number, which means only one number is going to show up in the middle. And in this case, I can clearly see that it's the 8. The median here is 8. Okay, but if you have an even number of pieces of data, then you're going to have to go halfway between the two numbers that are in the middle. Whenever you have an even set of data, two numbers are going to show up in the middle. Okay, when that happens, you have to average those two middle numbers. For example, okay, with this set, I see I've got 6 numbers here, so I'm going to move in until I get to the middle, and I see I've got the 8 and the 10 as my two middle numbers. I need to average these numbers together, so I'm going to do 8 plus 10 and then divide by 2. 8 plus 10 I know is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So the median in this example is 9. With this set of numbers, again, I've got 6 of them there. I'm going to move in until I find the two middle numbers. And in this case, it's the 11 and the 17. So to find the median here, I'm going to do 11 plus 17 and then divide by 2. 11 plus 17 is 28, and half of 28 is equal to 14. In the next couple of problems, we're going to be looking at examples where there's a piece of data that's missing, but we do know the mean of the data, and using the mean, we're going to be able to figure out what the missing piece of data is. Billy has an average of 7 points on the last 6 vocabulary quizzes in Mrs. Cummings' class. His quiz scores are 4, 6, 8, 7, and 8. He cannot find the last quiz, but he can figure out what the score on that quiz is. So we have to figure out what is the score. And we're going to figure that out by filling in some information that we know. Okay, so something that we do know is the number of quizzes. Okay, we're told that he took 6 vocabulary quizzes, 6 quizzes. Okay, we know the score of 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can't find the last quiz. That's what we're going to figure out. What was the score on that last quiz? We also know that he has an average of 7 points on those quizzes. He has an average of 7 points on those quizzes. So we need to figure out, okay, how many total points do you need to earn in order to get an average of 7 points when you take 6 quizzes? Okay, and to help us figure that out, there's a formula that's very useful to know. The average, which I'm going to abbreviate AVG, is equal to the sum divided by the number of values. Okay, an average is always equal to the sum divided by the number of values, which we talked about before when we were talking about how to find the mean. In this case, we know what the average is. The average is 7 points. So for the average, I'm going to put 7 equals. Okay, the other thing that we know is the number of values. In this case, there were 6 quizzes. So my denominator of my fraction is going to be equal to 6. The sum is what I'm trying to figure out. All right, how many total points do I need all of my quizzes to add up to? Well, in order to figure this out, this is really just a one-step algebra problem. I would multiply both sides by 6. Okay, so these 6's would simplify with each other. So my sum would be equal to whatever 6 times 7 is, and I know that is 42. So I need to earn 42 points on the quizzes in order to get an average of 7 points. So what I'm going to do is take the scores that I do know, 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 7 plus 8. I'm going to add those together, and I'm going to add in the one that I don't know. I'm going to call it x because I don't know its value. And I know that has to equal 42 total points. Okay, so if I add up these numbers here, 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 8 is 18, 18 and 7 is 25, 25 and 8 is 33, plus x has to equal 42. Now all I'm going to do is subtract 33 from each side. Okay, when I do that, on the left I'm left with x. 42 minus 33 is equal to 9. So this means that Billy scored 9 points on the missing quiz. Okay, so all you have to do is set up this little equation right here. If you know the average and your number of values, you multiply those two numbers in order to get your total number of points. In our last example, we're told that Lily wants to have a 90 average on her math tests. She has received a 94, an 87, and an 81. What must she earn on the last 2 math tests in order to reach that 90 average? Okay, so we're going to fill in with the information that we're given again. Okay, what's the total number of tests? Well, she's taken 3 so far, and she's going to take 2 more, which means it's going to be a total of 5 tests. The average that she wants is a 90. So how many points would she need to earn? Well, again, the average is equal to the sum divided by the number of values. Okay, we know that she wants a 90 average, so that's going to have to equal something, we don't know what that sum is, over the number of tests, which is equal to 5. Multiply both sides by 5. Okay, this means then that the sum has to equal 450 points. So she needs 450 points. So now we're going to add up the 3 that we know plus the 2 that we don't know and set it equal to 450. Combine our similar terms. 94, 87, and 81 adds up to 262 plus x is 2x, which equals 450. Okay, so we're going to have to subtract 262 from each side. That leaves us with 2x equal to 188. Okay, but now we need to divide by 2 in order to get the value of x. And when you do that, 188 divided by 2 is equal to 94. This means that Lily is going to have to get a 94 on each of the last 2 tests in order to get an average of 90.